Hey there, folks. Going to do a rapid fire market internal review here for the last week, starting off of March 18th, 2024. We're going to take a look at our SPY 2 minute chart. So, this past week, we had Jerome Powell come out not once, but twice. The FOMC rates decision announcement was on Wednesday here, and then Friday he came out for, I believe, just a kind of an interview, simple chat type deal. So, digging into particulars, we had quite the wonky TWAP here starting off on Monday. Lots of indecision in that prior range I discussed in the last video. So, that 518 to 508, 505 kind of range that was broken this week. So it took JPOW in order to achieve that break, but we did finally break out of that. So Monday, Tuesday, kind of a overall nothing burger. I mean, we just kind of stayed right in within that range, but then you see here Wednesday we had that monumental rip and new highs across many of the indices. Thursday, we rise up even higher from an overnight gap up situation from the futures market. And I think a little bit of a tell perhaps was the top index holdings here showing heavy bullishness after kind of flat past day and a half or so. I mean, this day here was mostly from the gap up off of Friday to Monday. And Thursday, we kind of saw it stifle here at the highs. Not a whole lot of reaction to one side or the other. Markets seemingly a little bit hesitant up at the new all-time highs, which I think is understandable. And very little tick yet again. So this one here, I'm going to chalk up to the fact that Jerome Powell's coming out this past Friday now, but coming out the next day from Thursday. And that takes us to the Friday. So Friday pretty much felt like a typical FOMC kind of day, honestly, where the market doesn't move a whole lot up until the big dog decides to come out and talk. So we had that finally, I think around 2. So it could have been a little earlier. I'm not quite sure, but pretty much what was on my focus was short side, and that's primarily because of us opening under the prior first standard deviation TWAP range here, this pink purple zone, hot pink zone, and that's right where the end of the day short really came through with some decent power. The rest of these candles all mostly real wicky, choppy. We did have a nice run up, and just look at all these candles right under the first standard deviation low here on prior TWAP range. So just beautiful price action if you're using TWAP ranges and TWAP in general, and stopped right at the current session TWAP with a nice bear break here on the tick. So overall, I did not catch this short. I was looking at some different things and actually trading Nasdaq this day, and I kind of wish I was trading ES or SPY, but yeah, I didn't end up catching this one. But boy, looking at SPY here, really wish I was looking at this chart instead, because this was a great setup here. It is always a little bit fishy trying to make something out of a day like a JPOW day, where the first half of the day is squeeze, low volatility chop like this, and then all of a sudden a move is made. Anything can happen. I mean, actually, regardless of who's talking, but especially on a JPOW day, anything can happen in the blink of an eye. But I do heavily rely on these levels to guide my bias, my directional bias. But the other, I guess, area of potential suspicion is the fact that by the time we made it back up here, we were inside the prior range. So that does make it a little bit iffy. And I think the trade from like an ES or SPY standpoint not even a buck move. I mean, I guess it's a good scalp to go from prior first standard deviation low to prior day low. First standard deviation on the current session, that low point was $1.30. That's a pretty good trade, but overall, mostly not much. This move here, maybe some of you could grab this, but a lot of the rest of the days were very choppy, or huge gap ups. So Monday, for example, I've discussed multiple times, above prior day first standard deviation TWAP range is a long. That's a buy, but that is a huge gap. It's a $4 gap up for the week and for that day. So you definitely want to be patient, look for pullbacks before you try to make a trade. Then Tuesday we have under and quickly head into the prior TWAP range. That's a chop signal. So yes, you can scalp from low to high, but we got top stocks, potentially being oversold, but this not really the right setup. You would rather see something like this, or at least I would. Now the bull tick and NYSE is looking very nice for upside, so maybe you could scalp that, but not really what I look for. Then you got Wednesday here, but this is JPOW day. So JPOW days, if you've traded them, they're full of squeeze, low energy up until there's not sudden bursts of volatility. The whole market goes berserk. Depends on what you like to do. That may or may not be something you enjoy trading. It's pretty high risk. If you're wrong, you're going to lose very fast. Then you've got Thursday, another chop day waiting for JPOW for Friday. And again, high above prior first standard deviation. That's a very good signal to remain patient. And then, like I said, Friday, we're below, only just though, so that's a little bit better setup. But with JPOW on the way, again, best to be patient. And then we got a little bit of divergence with New York markets showing a lot of bear, but with a sudden burst of bullish trend, which is how we come up. And top holdings is neutral to somewhat light bullish up until here. We kind of make a higher high as SPY is making the equal high. So you can't necessarily use this like that, but you can kind of look for a little bit of divergence there. So overall, I guess in summary, this past week was kind of lame. Very, very tight. If you're a credit seller selling to open credit spreads or different strategies of that kind on the indices, doing it weeklies, this week was probably awesome for you, save for maybe like this kind of move if you were on the wrong side. But the rest of this week was probably pretty easy if you were a credit seller. So that one, that pretty much covers up SPY for the week. Looking at the other indices, so another good indication, I think, of potential pullback is the fact that we did break out of first standard deviation on the monthly TWAP. I had mentioned that in the last video. I'm not quite bearish. Wasn't really bullish either. And I really do guide my overall outlook based on where the indices are at on the monthly TWAP. I think it's just a really good filter of, if we've gone too far high, then maybe pull back. Gone too far low, maybe a pullback in the other direction. If we're inside this first standard deviation, that's going to, expect more range, expect maybe a little bit of chop. So anyways, we broke out of that, and after JPOW, which is here, Thursday, we hit third deviation on the high side. So that's, anytime we do that, higher probability for at least some pullbacks or maybe a reduced momentum, depending on that direction. So SPY, same thing, third deviation. We actually broke out for a little bit, and then we just kind of remained flat and kind of into the rest of the week. Qs, they did they did the most work. They really were giving it up just in the last prior week, and then in this week they've really done an insane job of of buying, gosh, how much? 16, almost $17. Did not break third standard deviation like the rest of the, or some of the other indices, but definitely made it quite close. So broke back over this monthly gap. And the Dow, I mean, the Dow has been absolutely bonkers, just pretty much straight ripped from March 15th all the way to now. Not quite $13, way over third deviation. That's probably fourth. I don't plot that, but then come all the way back into second deviation, still pretty high. Russell is the weaker link. It's kind of flipped places with tech, and it did have a push along with everything else from JPOW, and then whatever I didn't listen to what Jerome was saying, but whatever he said Friday, maybe the market did not like as far as small caps go. They were right back into first standard deviation on the monthly TWAP for Russ, and almost finished right on monthly TWAP, which is right around that 204. So I don't really like doing predictions necessarily, but I will discuss some thoughts I have. We don't have much time left for the end of this month. I think it's just this week. And that we've got Good Friday. I think the market might be closed for that. TradingView, I think they've been watching my videos and they've been listening to my less than stellar praise of their calendar tool because it has they've made some adjustments. Let's see here. Okay. Next week then, I guess. Sunday at this point I would consider the next week has started. So, okay, Fed speakers, bill auctions, some heavier medium news, home sales might have a little bit more impact here lately. I wanted to say we had something else this week that was still pretty decent. GDP, that's a big one. Thursday, jobless claims. Yeah, so a handful of events. PCE, Friday. Oh, okay. Yeah, here it is. Powell talks on Friday. So another potential week of chop and jerky kind of moves with brief bursts of volatility. So I'm almost expecting Russell to stay within the first standard deviation range, maybe slightly focused on high side. I would continue to expect New York to pull back at least to the first standard deviation high on monthly TWAP until the month is over. I don't think we're just going to rush into new highs from here. I don't think we're going to make a new high on the month at this point. I think that'll be something that we test in April, but not again in March. Same thing for SPY. I think I would be very surprised if we make another new high before the end of March on SPY. So I'm going to be watching the 421, 417 range. Lowest I would expect is for 513. If I've been saying 521, 517, 513. So that kind of range here. So anything can happen, obviously, but that's kind of what I'm expecting. A little bit of pullback and just kind of indecision into the end of this month. Looking at the breadth, yet again, the 5 SMA signal here on the top 100 holdings and 1,000 holdings for Russell. For these indices, it has been the bottom signal again. So the interval's changed. I guess it kind of changed back here, but I was holding out for these really, really deep signals back here. We were kind of receiving some of them here, but this one here was definitely deep on NASDAQ and Dow. I would, and yeah, Russ and SPY were kind of close, but not as deep. And then we've had a nice move up. So I need to move my all-time high line up here for, was that 424? Yeah, 424 and change. Very impressive. So Other than that, yeah, I would expect, see how some of these are starting to curve downwards. I would expect that to continue. Maybe test the 10 SMA. I mean, if you zoom out and just kind of look at this trend we've had since back in November, other than a couple small moments of pullbacks or rips, aggressive rips, we've mostly just channeled pretty much straight, well, diagonally straight up. That's pretty much what we've done. So I would just expect that to continue. You can go back and look at periods of SPY or other things, and you'll see that that has occurred. So I think the market's got a short memory. COVID stuff's long been over. We're high on AI and GPUs, silicon, and brain implants. So I don't see that stopping anytime soon, unless some kind of new catastrophe. Knock on whatever wood you have around you. Hopefully that doesn't occur. But yep. So again, just apply the same rules as I've been preaching for. I don't even know how many videos now. I can't stress it enough. TWAP ranges indicator, that first standard deviation range. Bull over, bear under, chop inside. That's maybe I should say that's the pig zone. That's it, man. That's all I got for you guys. Again, appreciate all the praise regarding indicators and the videos. Leave any suggestions. I've received a handful of new ones for suggestions on indicators, so I'll be working on those. Hopefully get those pumped out. I've also had a slew of video requests for different topics. I have some recorded. Please just bear with me. Just one person, and I do have a life outside of trading, and especially in the spring, summer months, I definitely don't spend near the time I do in the winter in front of a computer. So, with that being said, have a fantastic next week. Hope you had a great restful weekend. Hope you had a great prior week. And as always, thank you for watching. Happy trading.